I was at UTA in Allan Saxe's political science class with the other Arlington candidates. And I wanted to tell you about some other events in UTA related to gas wells. I went to the community garden center. A lady named Bonnie was out there tending her garden. You know, that community garden's on campus, is at Summit. She asked me, since I was running for city council, what I thought of the air quality. And I said, well, I think the gas wells are making things very unsafe for us to breathe. And she goes, exactly. She says, I was out here in January and I was building my vine crawler. She says, I spent the better part of the day out here in January and had a 40-minute nosebleed. It was a gusher of a nosebleed. And coming out of the nurses program at UTA, she knew that after 20 minutes she really should have gone to the emergency room. Then she came out there again in February and worked in her garden and had a 20-minute nosebleed. She blamed it on drilling. She was blaming the Royal Arch drill site that's across from Division Street. And in the wintertime, the winds do blow from the north to the south. Anytime you're north of a drill site in the summer, you are downwind to the affluents. They're planning on building a high-rise apartment complex near the downwind area across from Mavericks. You know, I've spoken to council many times about not doing that. Why put that much humanity that close to 22 gas wells? Last week I attended a UTA pep rally for gas drilling put on by one of the other classes, marketing classes, I guess, when they introduced the panel of propaganda, pro-drilling companies, representatives, you know, whose paycheck depends on natural gas being clean. Rusty Ward.
First down here we have Rusty Ward, who works with Carrizo, who is the Chief Financial Officer at UTA for 20 years.
I didn't get a chance to tell you how the gas wells ended up on campus. Rusty Ward thought that this would be a really good opportunity for the school to improve its finances.
It's been a long time at UTA. I probably have a 40-year association with this place in terms of being a student, a graduate student, or an employee. And so what I thought I'd talk to you a little bit about is how UTA came to have a natural gas well on its campus. So we were looking for different ways to create revenue at UTA. In 2003, I started to notice all these tariffs going up between here and Austin. As I drive down to Austin, they have meetings, started looking into it. Turns out they're gas wells. When President Spaniolo came in early 2004, I approached him about looking into this. To his credit, there wouldn't be a gas well project without his determination to see it through. There was two things that convinced me that this project would work, and both of them had to do with Los Angeles. In Beverly Hills, anybody go to Beverly Hills? If you go to Beverly Hills High School, there's an oil well right in the middle of the campus. 16 gas wells, or oil wells, in the middle of the campus. It's decorated to look like a mosaic. It's got flowers and all there. You can't really see it. And the other place was called the Belmont Learning Center. The Belmont Learning Center today is called the Royal Learning Center. It's in inner city LA. In 1985, before this thing was even conceived, there was a methane explosion that actually destroyed a raw stress cholesterol. From that incident, they learned how to mitigate the problems of methane gas. And they built the most expensive high school in the country on this particular piece of property. We knew that we didn't have here at UTA anything like the environment that was in LA. In Los Angeles, the oil and gas starts at about 350 feet and goes down to about 1,700 feet. Here at the Barnett Shale, it goes down to about 8,000 feet. And natural gas has a tendency to want to disperse up, not out. In fact, unless the gas accumulates somewhere around 5% to 15% of the total air volume, it will not ignite. We created the Maverick Match, the money that comes out of the ground here. The Maverick Match basically matches dollar for dollar money that's given to the universities to create endowments for your scholarships or for the professors teaching wells here at the university. So that's a brief history of how we got gas well.
Rusty works for Carrizo now, and it really infuriated me. I was at UTA in Allan Saxe's political science class. I didn't have a chance to tell you that even if you go to the Dallas Morning News Voter's Guide to see my 22 steps to make these gas wells safer, that it won't apply to the UTA 22 gas wells on campus because that's a state entity. You don't even get city inspections. So I just wanted to set the record straight.
Now the UTA side is the one exception due to the fact that it's on state property, and so there's state regulations that it's governed by. The city doesn't have any involvement in that side.
I attended a UTA pep rally for gas drilling. The panel propaganda, pro-drilling company representatives, you know, whose paycheck depends on natural gas being clean.
There are things that we need to do under the Clean Air Act to strengthen it.
Lots of things.
With regard to air emissions from gas production. And in fact, EPA is about to propose a rule that we think may go a very long way to helping address those issues.
Will it grandfather the old wells?
Yeah, the air emission part.
And touted all the benefits, and one of the students stood up and asked a very intelligent question like, well, what is this doing to the environment?
Participant questions? What about like any long run environmental, you know, consequences as a result of just drilling natural gas? Is there any concern for that?
So I'm thinking like crickets are happening right about here. What's going on in their heart, mind, and soul? Huh. I got to ask a question about the 100-year fable. Author E. Berman said that with the natural gas, it's not 100 years. There might be 100 reserve, but the economically extractable is around 25 years. But if we ramp up our demand, it's really only 12 years.
He is the man when it comes to peak oil and peak natural gas. Comes to a conclusion that's very different than almost everyone else in the industry.
The hyperbolic decline curve for the Barnett Shale, is that like a 5% per month average?
Well, there is a hyperbolic decline curve that's well known for Barnett Shale wells, that they do decline rapidly. They tend to decline rapidly in the first couple of years and then level out.
The other thing I wanted to tell you that I didn't get a chance to was there is more information about these UTA wells. And when they were busy, you know, getting the pad site together, and a lot of diesel surface equipment was out there spewing a bunch of exhaust. There was a lady who lives within 600 feet of the drill site. She had carbon monoxide detector go off. She didn't even have natural gas hooked up to her home. You know, that was just the outside emissions coming into the home. She had toxicology tests, found that she had BTEX, benzene, toluene, ethylbenzene, xylene, in her blood. So her doctor had told the TCEQ that based on the proximity, the newest introduction of that facility, you know, near her home, and the change in her health since this activity is the cause of her illness. And there was never a nuisance violation found, even with a doctor's note and toxicology backing that up. So we're up against a state institution, the TCEQ, that is Perry-led, Governor Perry-led. So of course we're not surprised they didn't find a nuisance violation. I've seen 2 incident reports where the TCEQ investigators came out and had health effects. One of them quit, but that their air test samples that they took from what they call a SUMA canister, which is highly sensitive to BTEX, and if you take the air reading at the right place at the right time downwind, you can speciate, you know exactly what's in the canisters. They send it to Austin, they come back, and there's no violations found. So you can even have state inspectors come on a site and get sick and still have nothing found where you can send a violation to the driller to make them clean up their act. So it's a shame that they're mostly on an honor system. We've got 16,000 gas wells here in the Barnett Shale. We've got 55 pad sites in Arlington. We've got 350 gas wells in Arlington. And now that the price of gas is at a 10-year low at $2 per MCF, 1,000 cubic feet, we are kind of insulated until the price goes back up. They'll be back with a vengeance. And for those pad sites that don't have frac ponds, you're looking at 1,000 trucks per well. And I didn't even get a chance to talk about the water use. And
fracking has 3.5 to 7 million gallons of water per frac job, and
that creates all that water waste. There's so many issues to gas drilling in addition to the seismic events, social costs, the property devaluation. I didn't even get a chance to tell you guys about what's happening here by the Cowboy Stadium. There was 5 acres of land that Chesapeake owned that went down in value.
$2.5 million
and what they should have paid the city taxes on, because there's a drill site there. The highest and best use wherever these drill sites are is zilch, $1,000 to $3,000 to $5,000 value per acre. We'll never see surface taxable dollars come into our general fund because these gas wells devalue property, and they devalue property around them. You won't see that devaluation in the TAD records, but look at the market values. I mean, who's going to buy a house next to a drill site or even in eyeshot of a drill site? And then until we know what the pre-production emissions are and where the fallout range of the heavy hydrocarbons go, who can sleep safe not knowing what's in their air shed?
When I walk around campus, I usually smell some stuff. It's kind of really worrisome. I'm on campus living and there's like 22 drill sites. I'm really worried about the fact that they're drilling and I'm breathing in all these toxins. Some chemical. I'm not exactly sure, I don't know how to describe it, but it smells like something. I can smell something in the air.
And what the repeated exposure is, what does this do? What is the latency effect over the years and decades? I mean, who's to say the 4 years you spent here was enough to sign you an earlier death warrant,
I've also heard some of these chemicals might be linked to Alzheimer's or some other forms of brain disease.
Thanks for listening.